All right, guys, welcome to Foundry Demo Day on September 17th today. Got a few things we're going to go over. I'm going to show off just a couple of things that we improved on Permapost, and then I'll demo those, and I'll just briefly mention some quality of life improvements for the governance that we've improved. And then I'll talk a bit about and show off some of the changes for DEEF, which is pretty much the DEEF dashboard, which is pretty much done by now. I think just some small finalizing actions. And then I'll talk a little bit about the fees with DEEF as well. I've recently sort of done a bit of investigation into how the fees have impacted my own DEEF position. And so I'll talk about those, and Skulk and I will talk a bit about the strategy that you could take given those fees. Yeah, so let me start off and we'll look at Permapost. So just
by the way, how's my background noise? Is it tolerable?
Yep, don't hear anything. Well, yeah. Okay, so with Permapost, we've just changed how composing works. So you have a side-by-side compose, and then what I really like is this full screen thing. So yeah, pretty straightforward, not much to demo really, but whatever. And you can just compose nicely in a full screen thing. So that just makes it a lot more welcoming to actually compose things on Permapost. And then the other thing is, if once you've posted something or you want to share something, I will need to open Telegram. Okay, I don't think there's anything too sensitive here. We'll see. So if I share this, oh, hold on, that's okay. Let me
What's wrong?
See if I can change this. That should have changed the image. This image should be changed. Oh, you know what? I think it's a cached thing with Telegram. Let me get a different post because I've shared that before. Let's try this one. There it is. So that'll be the new image that's shared. So just a little bit cooler image. So just do small things with Permapost. Then I was going to go over the things that have changed for governance. They're not really worth showing off because they're all a bunch of small things, but just quality of life improvements. So more information when buttons are disabled, and disable buttons when they should be. So for example, if you have no voting power, disable the proposal creation button. Yeah, and just kind of these different quality of life stuff. We've also changed the logo. I guess I could just at least show that off. So we got the different logo up here, and when it loads, there we go. We got the different logo here. It used to be the comp logo because we've been sort of modifying their thing. Yeah, I don't think there's too much else to show. I guess we have pagination for the proposal list. So we can scroll through these. Nothing big, but just these small little crossing T's and dotting I's type of changes. Yeah, so that's all that we can talk about for governance.
And what's happening next week for the governance, by the way? You told me earlier that there's some.
So next week, Christopher from SwiftChain is going to be basically just going through this and just modifying the design as he sees fit. So he has a really good instinct just for quick wins in terms of making it look better. And there's a lot to improve here. I mean, for example, this description of the fact that this is a DAI proposal should be much more emphasized. So he's just going to go through everything and make it all work a lot better in terms of UX design. And then depending on how that turns out, we might want to go in for some more improvements or not. We'll just sort of see how much that improves the user experience here, which right now isn't terrible, but it certainly needs some improvement. So we'll just see how far that gets us. And I expect that'll just be about a week of work. Let's see what else I had. Yeah. And so what Christopher is working on right now is, if we look at the DEEF dashboard, we've been working on a bug where using Ledger with Firefox and MetaMask has a particular error, and that's because MetaMask itself has not yet been updated to the Firefox extension hasn't been updated, even though the technical latest release of MetaMask is ready for it. Anyway, long story short, we just have to wait for that to be fixed. So in the meantime, what we've done is we've added a Wallet Connect option. And so that way we're not locked into using MetaMask. We can go through Wallet Connect too. So that provides a way around this bug in the meantime. So if you have ETH on Ledger and you want to use the Ledger to get into ETH, you can go through Wallet Connect. And I'm not sure what the other piece of that connection is, but there's different ways around the MetaMask thing now that we've exposed Wallet Connect. Now this is not the live version yet. I think it still needs to go through some QA. But basically, as soon as this is done and we've confirmed it's working, I think this will be actually ready to launch the dashboard, which means we'll be able to start actually throwing some marketing at pointing people to this dashboard and the landing page as well. So yeah,
if people want to check out the version of this, but you know, you're going to run into some troubles if you have a hardware wallet trying to do it. App.lever.ly. app.lebr.ly is where it lives currently.
Yeah, so this is where you can go check out the live version, but this does not yet have the Wallet Connect implementation. And yeah, as Skulk said, all that means is that if you have a ledger and you want to use the ledger directly, you won't be able to use this at the very moment until MetaMask gets updated or until we push this version to the live one, which allows you to go through Wallet Connect. But if you just have funds on MetaMask, you can already use this actually, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and on that, I think so the last question that I think, let's say the alpha users, which is me and then another friend of ours, has been wondering about is what are the fees that get associated with market volatility? Because if you put one ETH into ETH and then the market goes up and down and it's volatile, then even if it returns to the same place, you will have lost some fees due to the fees associated with rebalancing. So I actually did a bit of investigation into that. So I put in ETH into ETH about 14 days ago. And I wanted to see how much how much that has impacted my position. I don't know if I really need to get into all the math here, but at the end of the day, my total leakage in those fees is 1.24%. It's a little bigger than that, but then because when people enter and exit, they leave some on the table for this purpose. At the end of the day, that kind of, mitigates that damage a little bit. So, so basically this number is, what we're asking is putting aside the actual price change of ETH, how much have I lost just because of the cost of managing the position that DeFi Saver does for the ETH system. And yeah, so in 14 days, it was 1.24%. I also, just before the call, and this is with 3 rebalances. So these yellow rows are the rebalances, boost and repay. And you can see they've each cost somewhere around 0.5%. Now,
sorry, just for some context, that 0.5% is the value of your excess collateral. So in other words, if you were able to withdraw 1 Ether, then after a rebalance, you would be able to withdraw 995 basically from it. In other words, if you only look at the rebalances.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So this is just looking at the impact of rebalances and also taking into account that they're a little bit offset when anyone enters or exits. And so that final number after 13 days, in this case, was 1.24%. And so now if we say that was in, let's just do some calculation here. So that was in 13 days. If we say 55 divided by 13, so the ETH contract has been live for 55 days. And so in 55 days, we could sort of roughly say we would expect 4.2 times the leakage that we have here. So we can multiply that by 1.24. So we'd get 5.2% leakage in 55 days. Wait, actually, let me do this a bit differently. Sorry. So 12 rebalances in 55 days. If we average these, that's really what I want to do. Okay, let me do this a bit differently. So we got 0.52 plus 0.78 plus, whoops, yeah, that's right, plus 0.3.
Okay, thanks for joining us though, Omar. I appreciate it.
Is he out of here? Yeah.
I think he's out, yeah.
Wait, what am I doing here? Oh, that's right. And then I want to divide by 3 to get the average. And then so we say this is the average, at least in this data set, of the cost of the rebalance. So about 0.5%. And if we multiply that then by 12. So
Welcome back, Omar.
Hi, welcome back. So this is how much we would expect the total of the 12 rebalances to be. And then if we extend this
days.
in 55 days. And so then if we, I'm just going to write that down, 6.4% cost. And then if we say, okay, let's see, 365 divided by 55 and multiply that by, so we would see.
No, what you need to do is you need to go 1 minus, keep that number just in front of it, go 1 minus.
Yeah.
And then 0 point, and then just remove that. So 0.0. And then just remove the next dot there, basically. And then you have
but no. This is the number of, this is a time-based thing.
I understand, but that's your, how do you mean that's the time-based thing?
This is just 365 divided by 55. This is what I need to multiply by this.
Oh, okay, sorry. Then what you need to do is you need to go, okay, so 1 minus 0.064, which is your average over, so yeah, 0.
Why is that point not, okay. It's not letting me do a point. There we go.
0, yeah, and then to the power of, you can.
The power of this, right?
Yeah, and then so then to the power of that, which should give you a number of about 64%.
Yep.
Give or take, essentially. So that's if you, all right, so just for some context.
So this would be the amount left in your position.
Sorry, just a second. I just see Omar sent us something. Yeah, thanks, Omar. Appreciate that you came along. Hey, it's 100%. No worries if you need to run again. Hey. Okay, cool. All right. So basically, yes, that would be 64% of your original position. So if you put in 1 Ether and a year later you came along again, and the same was happening, you would be at about 64.
Right. If so, yeah. If you came, so like, yeah. Let me just say that again, but with all the sort of the assumptions. So if you came in with 1 Ether today, and then you came back a year later, and the price of Ether had returned to where it was, whether that went up or down or whatever, if it came back to where it was at the end of that year, and also assuming that our sort of rough estimates for how often these rebalances are going to happen is roughly correct, then you'd be able to then you'd have lost, yeah, all but 64% of the position. So, but so that's just sort of the cost of using the ETH contract. But now, of course, the benefit is that when ETH goes up, you start to madly gain that. So if you can look at this and you can say anytime in the next year ETH will multiply by 2, you've actually still made a good bet here.
28%. Yeah, so you would have made about 28% if your assumption was that it.
So if right, so if you come back after a year and after that year it's now doubled, you've still made what did you say it was? 28% extra.
About 28%, and that's if no one else entered or exited.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So this is the worst case automated scenario. So in other words, if it was only us and nobody else comes in or goes out again, right, then essentially it would be 64%, right? So just on your sheet in the background there, you also have green numbers, just to tell people what the green numbers are.
Yeah.
So there's an automation fee in the current ETH contract where every time somebody enters or somebody leaves, they basically pay the pool a fee as well for destabilizing the pool and to cover their future like rebalancing expenses.
Yep.
Right. So those green numbers that Logan has calculated on there are basically those are the values that he gained from his position.
Just as a consequence of people entering and exiting.
As a consequence of other people entering and exiting. All right. So the two mitigating factors are firstly, if a lot of people enter and exit, you essentially earn pool fees from that, right? So I mean, we're literally like almost at pre-beta numbers at this point, right? So
Yeah.
that already has an impact of, I think, about 20%, give or take, if I'm not mistaken, that has buffered you in this last 13-day scenario. I mean, we can look at what it was since the inception of the contract as well.
Mm.
So that's the first mitigating thing. The more people there are who participate, the more that sort of like alleviates long-term holders from exposure to those automation fees. And the second thing is the second thing to just keep in mind is that maybe just divide the one number by the other number and we'll get an idea of how the percentages are at this level of use.
What do you mean?
So just divide the second one by the first one. And then another thing just to keep in mind is that the larger the position is as well, a fair amount of the red numbers on the screen, a fair amount of those costs go towards just purely gas. So in other words, just covering the gas for the transaction. Now, currently it's about 40%, give or take, of that fee goes to just covering gas. The rest goes to DeFi Saver and to automated market makers for providing liquidity. Right. The bigger our position becomes, the bigger the DETH position becomes, the less the gas will be ultimately, right? So the gas will remain probably the same cost, but relative to the move that we are causing, it becomes less and less and less, basically. So we could probably squeeze that all the way down to something.
And another way to say that is that, if I have the same position in here, but then there's 100 times more money, then the percentage of that gas cost that I have to pay sort of personally for my position will approach zero.
No, not exactly. The percentage of gas cost will still be split over everyone. The percentage of gas cost of the move, the bigger our position is, will be much less. So in other words, the more people who enter, the more efficient the rebalancing becomes. So in other words, currently those rebalances are for something like, I think, $64,000. If that was $640,000, the gas on I think the last transaction was like, I think the whole cost was something like $600, of which the gas was about $288.
Right.
Right. So the thing is, if instead of $64,000, we moved $640,000 in that rebalance, the gas would have remained $288.
Right. That's what I'm
So in
saying.
other words, it would have gone from. Okay, but I'm just saying proportionally, you are not paying less. You're paying proportionally the same as everyone else. Everyone is.
Yeah, just another way to look at it is that because in that scenario, I'm a smaller holder of the total percentage of the position, and the whole position has to pay the same flat gas fee, the percentage of that gas fee that I have to pay becomes more and more negligible the more people that are in there, because we're sharing the gas costs.
Yeah.
The fuller feed still scales basically, or the other part of the fee scales, because it scales with the amount of money that has to be moved. But that gas fee will, for me, let's say, approach zero. But okay.
Yeah. So the first thing, what I just want to point out on that is as well, though, that I mean, if you look at that 0.24, if you just basically let's just multiply that 0.24 by 0.06, because that's theoretically as minimal as we can get it, right? So so that would basically be the number above that multiplied by 0.6. Yeah, so that's actually like that's closer to how at about 10% of this, well, make it point, make that thing like 0.7, and then I think it'll be close to realistic. They're not ideal.
Yeah.
Then that is closer to how if there was the same level of interest in DETH as there is today, that's how much we would we would be paying for a rebalance in terms of that's how much we would be paying for a rebalance percentage wise, basically. So that to the power of 55
well, it's going to be
divided,
just to keep it within this spreadsheet. I'm just going to do this is 14 days.
3, yeah.
So that'll be
13 divided by 14 divided by
5 divided by 14, I believe.
That is correct. So and then that's 1 minus that number that you have there, because that's how much you have left.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
All right, so it's a 20% leakage over a year. If it moves, if we assume some moves in a direction and it ends up back where it was.
And assuming that this thing comes true because more people have joined, right?
Well, yeah, just the total value lock. The more people who enter and exit perpetually, it should get far better. It can actually turn positive then. So in other words, the more people who enter and exit, the more positive it becomes.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how that goes. It's hard to really estimate this because depending on the size of people entering and exiting, they could trigger a rebalance. Yeah, so it's going to be hard to say, but it's possible. It's possible that these entering and exiting fees happen so frequently that they actually overtake, by the time, we would get so many of these, but that by the time this 0.3% cost comes up, we've already actually made more than that. So, but it's hard to tell how that'll go.
I think it's relatively safe to assume that they will most likely just cause fees because the spread will be extremely wide. There'll be an extreme amount of money necessary to move the thing up or down. When people come along with 1 to 10 ETH or something to that effect, all they'll be doing is just moving. They'll barely be noticeable inside of the waves as they enter and exit. Obviously, if the numbers that enter and exit also scale, then that's a different scenario. Then we might be exactly back where we started with ETH.
So, so over this 13 days here, the total leakage is 1.24%. And then if we figure in how that basically scales down as more people enter and exit, we get this theoretical minimal leakage of this is how much I would have actually leaked out, because I'm paying proportionately less and less of the gas of the total position. And then if we sort of extrapolate this out to a year, assuming that we sort of see roughly the same kind of behavior for a whole year, then we have the worst case and ideal leakage per year. So that'd be 20.3% versus 28% roughly. Yeah, this worst case is if nobody else basically joins at all, and we don't share the gas cost among more people. And this is if so many people join that the gas cost is sort of minimal per user. But yeah, anything else you want to say on that stuff right there? Skulk?
Sorry, I was muted. Not specifically, no.
Okay. All right, I don't think there's anything else to go over then. Let me just check. Maybe you could just, what was that? Did you have the numbers specifically about like how much your position would have gone up if ETH doubled in a year? What was that number that you had? If you buy ETH and then ETH doubles in the year, at the end of the year, it has doubled.
So let's assume what Ether does is it moves sideways pretty much the whole year, but somewhere in the year there's a 2x jump. Right. So in other words, and you don't know when the 2x jump is going to be. Then if you, for instance, enter 1 Ether at the beginning of the year, it's going to go sideways. At a certain point, there's going to be a jump, and then it's going to go sideways again. And if you just check at the beginning and the end of the year, by the numbers we just did, you should be up about 28% in Ether terms.
In Ether terms, so you'd have 28% more Ether claimable.
You should have about 1.28 Ether claimable. If you had 1 Ether claimable well, you obviously minus the fees. Like if you had 1 Ether claimable at the beginning of the year and the worst case happened, but there was a 2x jump, right? If the worst case happened, okay, well, the worst case is it went down. Like if the worst case happens, then I mean, but it's leverage. So I mean, it's called death for a reason. Yeah. So if it goes in the opposite direction, that's not great for your position. But if it went sideways, if all it did was go sideways, then the worst case scenario would be the number we saw there, which is 29% or something leakage. But if it just went sideways, went up 2x during the year for just one spike, essentially, you would still have 28% more Ether than you had otherwise.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is, I mean, people don't think about stuff in these terms. They always seem to panic. And well, what I've seen and this is even people who know better about crypto, what I've seen them do is I've seen them enter and exit and enter and exit. They enter once the price has spiked. So they enter after the spike, and then things either go sideways or drop, and then they panic and they pull out again.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's of course great for the guy who started at the beginning, just sitting there. So yeah, that's kind of, does that answer the question?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's good. Cool. All right. Thanks for watching the demo day, guys. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Cool. Bye.